After stepping away from the heavily delayed Constellation-class program, the Navy needed a realistic, rapidly producible solution to rebuild the backbone of the surface fleet. Their answer? The FFX, a militarized evolution of the incredibly successful Legend-class national security cutter. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. By late 2025, the Navy was staring down a massive deficit in small surface combatants. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the absolute workhorses of the fleet, were being run into the ground performing routine patrols and drug interdiction missions because there simply weren't enough frigates to take the low-end workload. The Navy needs a reliable, long-endurance workhorse to take over the day-to-day maritime security operations, freeing up the destroyers for high-end combat. To get this workhorse fast, the Navy turned to Huntington Ingalls Industries and the Legend-class hull. This ship is renowned for its incredible seakeeping ability, designed to survive the brutal storms of the Bering Sea while boasting a massive 12,000 nautical mile range. It is exactly the kind of blue water endurance required for the vast expanses of the Pacific. In the newly released fiscal year 2027 budget draft, the Navy lays out a comprehensive, fully funded roadmap. They plan to procure a total of 22 FFX frigates at a total program cost of approximately $36.1 billion. For 2027, the Navy is allocating $1.671 billion for the lead ship. This includes about $221 million dedicated to research and development. Once the production line hits its stride, the remaining 21 ships will average out to a highly predictable unit cost of around $1.64 billion. The lead ship requires an extra $31 million, which is a very standard premium used to cover first-in-class tooling, molds, and initial construction debugging. By utilizing an active, hot production line that the shipyard already intimately understands, the Navy is mitigating the catastrophic cost overruns that usually plague brand-new ship designs. The Navy and Huntington Ingalls Industries are moving at breakneck speed. The critical design review will be completed this year in 2026. The formal construction contract for the lead ship will be signed in March 2027. Steel will be cut in June 2027, and the ship will be delivered by June 2030, officially entering the fleet in March 2031. That is a 36-month construction cycle. In modern American naval shipbuilding, delivering a lead ship in 3 years is an absolute operational miracle. How are they achieving this impossible speed? By being incredibly resourceful. If you read the budget documents closely, you will notice that the second ship of the class has a much longer, 55-month construction cycle, contracted in March 2029 and delivered in June 2033. Why does the second ship take longer than the first? Because the Navy pulled off an industrial masterstroke. Before the Coast Guard's 11th Legend-class cutter could be fully built, the Navy stepped in and formally acquired its prefabricated materials, long lead components, and keel modules. Instead of starting from scratch, Huntington Ingalls Industries is directly leveraging these existing, high-quality components to assemble the first FFX. By scavenging the 11th cutter's materials, the Navy catapults the lead ship's delivery date to the left by nearly 2 years. The second ship's 55-month timeline reflects the standard reality of procuring raw materials and laying a keel from absolute zero. So what are the tactical capabilities of this 4,750-ton warship? The Navy is executing a spiral development strategy. The first 2 ships are designated as FX Flight 1. Their primary mission is presence, patrol, and forward-deployed surveillance. It retains a streamlined kinetic profile, a 57mm Mark 110 main gun, a Mark 49 ram launcher for point defense, and a highly adaptable aft mission deck. You may notice that Flight 1 does not have a built-in vertical launch system. Instead, the Navy is relying entirely on modularity. The stern mission deck will be repurposed. Depending on the mission, the Navy can bolt down 2 to 4 quad canister launchers for the Naval Strike Missile, providing decent anti-ship capability. Alternatively, they can strap down the Mark 70 containerized VLS or pack the deck with AGM-114 Hellfire missiles to counter unmanned surface drone swarms. For its primary sensor, the Flight 1 utilizes the AN/SPS-77. While some might argue it isn't an AESA radar like the SPY-6, The SPS-77 has one massive critical advantage for forward-deployed ships: exceptional low probability of intercept characteristics. In a complex electromagnetic environment, the SPS-77 is incredibly difficult for enemy electronic intelligence to detect and track passively. The FX can actively scan the airspace while remaining electronically cloaked, serving as a stealthy, forward-deployed set of eyes for the fleet. But the Flight 1 is just the beginning. The Navy's master plan comes to fruition with the FFX Flight 2, starting with the third ship of the class. Utilizing the 5 years of operational data and construction experience gained from the first two ships, Flight 2 evolves into a heavily armed, multi-mission guided missile frigate. The Flight 2 will feature a fully integrated Mark 41 vertical launch system, likely two 8-cell modules providing 16 total cells. Because the evolved Sea Sparrow missile can be quad-packed, this grants the ship a highly respectable loadout of 32 ESSMs for robust area air defense, alongside 8 vertical ASROC missiles. Furthermore, Flight 2 integrates a comprehensive anti-submarine warfare suite, including variable depth and towed array sonars, making it a lethal submarine hunter. Usually, adding a VLS and a massive ASW suite to a ship causes the price tag to absolutely explode. But the Navy expects the Flight 2 to maintain the same average $1.64 billion unit cost. How? According to the budget framework, the foundational hull construction costs $972.5 million, accounting for 58% of the total price. The electronic systems, radars, communication suites, and electronic warfare cost $331.1 million, making up 20%. The mechanical and electrical systems take up another 2%, and miscellaneous costs make up the rest. The actual kinetic weapons and ammunition, only $53.8 million, a mere 3% of the total cost. Because weapons make up such a tiny fraction of a warship's cost, by the time they start building ship number 3, the shipyard will have mastered the hull production, achieving massive economies of scale and driving that 58% hull cost down. The financial savings generated by mass-producing the hull will directly pay for the integration of the VLS and the sonar suites. So, now, someone may say, all right, we have a $1.6 billion ship with a patrol boat radar and bolt-on missiles. How does the Pentagon justify sending this into a high-end fight? The answer lies in the Navy's overarching doctrine: distributed maritime operations. In DMO, you don't keep all your assets clustered tightly around the aircraft carrier. You push your sensors and shooters across thousands of square miles of ocean to create an inescapable, overlapping kill web. This is exactly what the FFX is built to do. Remember that massive $331 million investment in electronics? A huge portion of that is dedicated to state-of-the-art encrypted communications, data links, and advanced electronic warfare suites. The FFX is designed to operate as a critical forward node using cooperative engagement capability. Imagine a carrier strike group operating in the Philippine Sea. An FFX is stationed 300 miles ahead of the main fleet. If an adversary launches a volley of low-flying, sea-skimming anti-ship cruise missiles, the curvature of the Earth prevents the destroyers in the rear from seeing them until it's too late. But the forward-deployed FFX detects them instantly. Without even firing a shot itself, the frigate seamlessly beams that targeting telemetry back to an Arleigh Burke destroyer or a fighter jet in the rear. The destroyer launches air defense missile, guided entirely by the radar data provided by the FFX, destroying the threat before it ever gets near the carrier. Furthermore, as the Navy integrates more unmanned surface vessels and autonomous drones, the FFX acts as the ultimate battlefield router. In a heavily jammed, complex electronic warfare environment, it provides a high-bandwidth, resilient relay node, ensuring that the critical command and control signals between the rear admiralty and the frontline drones remain unbroken. And when Australia moved to procure Mogami-class frigate, someone may ask a simple question. If the Japanese design seems like a better option, cheaper and more stealthy, why didn't we just buy that instead? Of course, the Mogami is an incredible piece of engineering. At 5,500 tons, it is highly stealthy, heavily armed, and comes in at a remarkably efficient price tag of around $600 million per ship. Compared to the $1.64 billion FFX, critics argue the US is overpaying for an inferior platform. But comparing the Mogami to the FFX is comparing apples to oranges. They are built for entirely different strategic realities. The Japan's Navy operates defensively within its own regional neighborhood. The Mogami is designed to patrol the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea, operating closely with land-based air cover and friendly ports. The United States Navy, however, is a global expeditionary force. An American frigate has to be able to leave San Diego, cross the vast expanse of the Pacific, endure a Category 4 typhoon, and remain on station in the South China Sea for months at a time without breaking down. The Legend-class hull underlying the FFX provides a level of unrefueled endurance, crew habitability, and raw blue-water seakeeping ability that regional frigates simply cannot match. You are paying a premium for American shipbuilding, yes, but you are also paying for extreme global reach and the world's most sophisticated, heavily encrypted C4ISR architecture. The FFX is not trying to be a stealthy, lone wolf assassin. It is designed to be the rugged, reliable, far-seeing eyes of the world's most lethal naval network. When you look at the entirety of the FFX program, from the scavenging of the 11th NSC hull to the modular Flight 1 and the heavily armed Flight 2, it represents a profound, highly encouraging shift in the mindset of the United States Navy. For too long, the Pentagon has been paralyzed by the pursuit of perfection. They wanted ships that could do everything, and as a result, they got ships that were endlessly delayed and wildly over budget. The FFX is the Navy finally embracing reality. They looked at the board, recognized they needed hulls in the water immediately, and made a highly calculated, pragmatic choice. By leveraging a mature, proven hull design, utilizing an active production line, and focusing heavily on electronic networking over bolt-on bells and whistles, the Navy is guaranteeing that 22 capable warships will enter the fleet in the coming years. The FFX is going to be the absolute workhorse of the 2030s. It will take over the grinding, day-to-day maritime security patrols, the anti-submarine sweeps, and the forward-deployed presence missions. And, most importantly, by shouldering that burden, the FFX will unchain the Arleigh Burke destroyers. It frees up the apex predators of the fleet to do exactly what they were built to do: project overwhelming, dominant power across the globe. Alright guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I want to know what you guys think. Is the Navy making the right strategic call by militarizing the Legend-class cutter to get ships in the water by 2030? And do you agree with the spiral development plan to transition from the modular Flight 1 to the VLS-equipped Flight 2? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below.